Good evening. I'm back with another video at 6:40 p.m. August 2nd. It's obviously evening and I am going to be going to bed in about 2 hours or so. But right now I decided to make a video. I've been making a lot of videos. Sometimes I've been making more than one in a day. This is me just trying to get out my feelings, because I have a lot to work on. As everyone knows, I'm somebody who is dealing with a lot of mental issues. And I am a victim of human trafficking. And I was doing some reading, which I've been doing a lot of reading lately because, obviously I'm learning some new skills. But when it comes to me writing, I'm kind of digging into some of my old interests, and trying to get away from the topic of human trafficking. But I will always say that this has been something that has affected my life, in a big way. And I also want to say that just because, and everybody can tell by all my over 1,200 videos that this has really hurt me, and I felt mentally tormented and tortured the entire time. But and just think about how deep my feelings are, and know that there is forms of human trafficking that are 10 times worse. Thank goodness I didn't have to endure any physical pain, but that doesn't mean that there was not a plot to kill me, okay? These sort of things can make a person commit suicide, seriously, like I've said this before. And I've talked about people not recognizing the signs of human trafficking. And what goes through my mind is there anyone else like me in this community? Obviously, I know that there are. And I know that there's people sitting behind desk thinking it's funny that a person is basically losing their life or being forced into something, or may not be aware of what they're being set up for. And I want people to remember that oftentimes when somebody wants to get control of another person's employment, and I want you to think about this, another person having control over a person's employment, that should never be the case. Like, a person is not somehow prevented from finding their own work. And mind you, there's nothing wrong with being a network. There's nothing, let me clarify something. There's nothing wrong with being in a network if it's consensual. Or let's just say it's not consensual. Somebody finds you a job. There's nothing really wrong with that. But as long as that job is being given to that person under the guidelines of the law, meaning, make sure this is not because you're trying to keep this person married, or you're trying to stop them from getting married. You don't want them, or they're doing it some sort of punishment, or they're trying to change somebody, because all that stuff just leads to bullying. Okay, now I know that I am not the only person, and believe me, I am not a do-gooder, but I also know the suffering that goes on with people who are victims of human trafficking. And I think human trafficking goes under the nose of several people, but they don't say anything. And I will say that so-called innocent bystanders, there are no innocent people when it comes to human trafficking. Because if you know, then you're just as guilty, and you're doing something just as bad as the people who are participating in it. By turning a blind eye, you are allowing it to happen. And so, there's signs, like myself, like just about anybody who worked with me, I was very quiet. I'm sure I didn't appear very comfortable around those people, because I really got tired of the gossip. I got tired of the fixation. I got tired of the, people walking up to me only to say stupid shit. Okay? And if you see somebody who's in your work environment who's like that, now, I've already said, what do we do about, I got basically ignored by the Department of Human Trafficking, because people think human trafficking is one thing. Or they thought, hey, it's not a big deal. Maria's so-called brother is doing this to her. This is exactly what it is. This is how people traffic their family members all the time. You know what I mean? And just keep in mind, if somebody's over the age of 18, they have the right to find their own work. They have the right to live their own life. They do not need somebody instructing them, and they don't need somebody making those decisions. That is one of the signs you should look for. Now, sometimes people are forced to live with their perpetrators. So like, for example, the perpetrator might have like a little house, and there's a lot of little houses, like, I think like on Oleander, those kind of streets, they have what they call like a mother-in-law type house that's attached to the house. A lot of these people live in these sort of arrangements, I'm talking about targets, and they're living close to their proximity of their perps. And you'll notice that they never have free time. When they are out in public, they're usually followed with their perp. Okay, because like in my case, my bullies were not in my close proximity. They weren't living in my neighborhood or whatever, but they could keep my house under surveillance so they can watch me from distances or whatever. Okay, when you hear of this sort of stuff, what can we do? I'm thinking, how do we help people who, I will tell you, I will always be aware. If I see something like that, and I don't know if I will call the Department of Human Trafficking, I don't even know if I call the police department. Because I tell you what, both seem equally worthless to me. Okay? But I would do something to try to help that person. Because that person needs help. There's some people who are getting beaten every day. There's some people who are being starved for fun. There's some people who are being trafficked for sex. And I'm going to consider this issue that happened to me, I'm going to consider it and put it under the category of sex trafficking. Just because I understand the perverted nature of my brother. Okay? So it goes in that category. And don't tell me the people who in this community didn't know what was going on. Yeah, it's sex trafficking. Okay? And Kern County is huge for it. I was looking online, and I already knew that Kern County had a sex trafficking problem, okay? But I'm looking at some of the articles that were written, and they're also, this one was written back in January of 2020. It says, it's not just sex trafficking. This is written here in Bakersfield. Apparently somebody by the name of Quinn Wilson was talking about forced labor, also big in Kern County. Now, there's nothing wrong with people working a job, and there's nothing wrong with people setting them up in those jobs. But if they're being set up in those jobs just to have fun, they're playing games. If a person, each person is responsible for building their career. Okay, like for example, if I was to work as a receptionist, I might somehow want to plan my next job to be a step above that, not just a receptionist. I'm going to think about the skills that I acquired while I was a receptionist and think, what, maybe I can be a secretary this time. I don't know, but I'm just coming up with an example. Or maybe I did handle the accounts payable. Maybe I want to do that exclusively. So they're going to sit here and try to maybe go for promotion because this is a part of their need to try to expand themselves, improve their skills, of course, make more money, grow professionally, right? But unfortunately, they have somebody who's with them who is denying them that opportunity. Do you hear what I'm saying? There's a certain protocol that goes along with an employee leaving a company. In my case, when I left Karen's company, I left because there were harassment issues that were going on, okay? I would say the quality of my work was good. I worked with her brother. Her brother was the company's CPA. The books were always in order. I did everything I needed to do. My biggest problem was the social issue. I could not deal with it. I could not deal with the bullying. I could not deal with that horrible Lisa bullying. She was bullying me from day one. And when I finally got someone that I was, able to talk to, they make sure that those relationships get sabotaged because they don't want you to have anyone. It is very sick, okay, I'm going to tell you. As a targeted individual, somebody who's a victim of human trafficking, I recognize those signs, okay? And there's a lot of people who are in positions right now who recognize, who know that they're bringing in somebody to basically mess with them, play with their lives, they take their lives for jokes or whatever, but seriously, how could you be so cruel? Right now, if you're listening to this, you have a choice to make, a spiritual choice to make. You could either continue being the evil, rotten, what I'm going to say, slave handler, because that's basically what you are, if you understand that this sort of thing is wrong and continue to do it, or you can make a difference. You know what I mean? I personally think that if I had the ability to make a difference or a change, I would do something for targeted individuals. Unfortunately, I have no respect for this world. I honestly think I don't really see how it can get better. Maybe if I had the resources, I would try. If I was wealthy, I would do something. I would. You know what I would do? I'd buy a few acres of land. I would get some of those little tiny homes, and I would try to find some targeted individuals who needed help and who needed shelter and who have been taken and extracted from the professional atmosphere that they were in. Like, for example, I mentioned before, there's some of these people who are doctors, Some of these people are lawyers. Some of these people are teachers. Some of these people are great inventors, but they're not going anywhere because somebody's holding them down. So what I would do is I would kind of build a little community for them and try to, try to make something. Because obviously these are very intelligent people, and they're going to waste because people are either taking credit for their work, taking their ideas, selling them, preventing them from having even the most basic needs. Okay, I'm basically saying there's a lot of talented people who are being held down by their social circle, which is illegal. Okay, and they're not prevented from like escaping that. But if I had the ability and the resource to do it, I would do it. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to think about this. The next time somebody comes into your company and they are seem terrified, and this is one of the signs. They're terrified. They're bewildered. Like I had no idea who the main perp was when I realized I was a target individual. But I'll tell you what, if somebody would have told me who it was right then and there, I would have freaked the fuck out because I remember that person telling me that they were going to make sure that I never had a life. Okay, that's serious. That's somebody who's mentally ill coming right at you. Okay? And it's like, I think that this sort of stuff's getting played out in under the nose of so many people, and it would never get played out under my nose. That's basically what I'm going to say. I would not. I would do something to help somebody. Okay, now unless court, I'm going to say there are some targeted individuals that are to me are just trash. Okay, and the reason why I'm going to say they're trash, even though they're targeted individuals, is because they still do not have empathy. So you would think that somebody, because I know what it feels like to be bullied at work, to be denied the simple right to take care of yourself when you need to provide basic needs for yourself when you need to. Okay, and instead of having somebody, just fuck around, play with your life, threaten your life, and just throw your life up in the air and think it's funny. I know what that feels like. It's like torture. It's like torment, and that's why it's a form of terrorism, and that's why these people really should go to jail. But um, once you experience that, unless of course you're an absolute monster, you could never see anybody be tormented in any way. I could never watch or see somebody be tormented. If I hear a kid crying hysterically for too long, I start worrying, is somebody torturing that kid? I mean, I'm very sensitive, and I could never do that to another human being. But I have known targets within this community who have somehow been misled or made a part of the campaign against me. Now, they of all people, as a targeted individual, they of all people should be very objective and think about this, like, because the same tactics that are being played out on me, they would participate in. So for those targeted individuals, I'm going to tell you right now, not all targeted individuals deserve respect, deserve protection, and if I was in a position to help them, I wouldn't help all of them. Okay? Very few people are good-hearted people. Very few. And I would make sure, like, and maybe that I might only end up saving one person. Because, I mean, this world is pretty goddamn evil and goddamn wicked, But I swear to you, I would never let anybody suffer, there's people right now that you probably laugh at when they go to work every day, and they might be going home to the very person that beats them, and you think that's funny. You get a charge out of it. It doesn't matter to you because you know what? You got a promotion, so you don't really care about what happens to them. That tells me a lot about your character. It tells me everything about your character. And I'm sure you're a good Christian too. So typical. This is what blows me away. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Jesus Christ, like I said before. What I have a problem with is people who use religion as an excuse to hurt and harm other people. I simply cannot tolerate it. I can't stomach it. But obviously, Kern County does have a problem with human trafficking, all forms of human trafficking. Okay, this is like a little Sin City is basically what it is, and I'm aware of it because I've experienced it, and I've been disturbed by it, and this is one of the reasons why I make these videos, because it became so evasive that even the medical industry, psychiatry, psychologists, therapists, whatever you want to call them, they're not immune to the corruption. In fact, they are more than willing to assist in this sort of bullshit. Okay? I live in a world that is very, like I said, extremely topsy-turvy. You know, like what's right, what's is wrong, and you see so much of this. And I do plan on making more videos to kind of educate people who take an interest in our current events and beyond of what we see in the news, beyond what we get talked about, what people talk and report about. These are the sort of things that we need to watch. It's not the terrorism that goes on in other countries, it's the terrorism that goes on here in this country. Probably not right next door to you. You see what I'm saying? It's very deep. And the more I think about it, it's like, oh my God, you know, if I had the resources to help a targeted individual, I certainly would, you know, and I would do so gladly because I think people like that deserve to be saved. We have a lot to offer the world. I believe so, you know, and I think a lot of other people, like their relatives or whatever, they get jealous, they get competitive, you know, and they do what they can to hold these people down. Um, and I would say that my aspirations are not that big, but you know, there were times where I wanted to do a lot of interesting projects with people, you know, and it's unfortunate that my life got cut down. There's not a day that goes by that makes me feel like, my God, look what happened to me. What happened to me? I don't know anyone because, like I said, when you're a targeted individual, the people that you know are their part of their network. You know their people. And if you do meet somebody on their own, they're going to make sure they know them too. And then they're going to get absorbed in this nightmare, hellish, brainwashing, I don't know what. You know? So I think people think, well, how come she fails in her project? She fails in getting them set because I don't know anyone that I can trust. Okay? That's why. Being a target individual is very difficult. It's very difficult to have anything on your own, and because they feel as though they're entitled to what you do, and I don't know why they think that. A lot of times, you know, you find people who want to attach themselves to you, maybe because they're not stable. I don't believe that my brother's stable, you know, or whatever. Or you might be the strongest one, or you might have the possibility of being a strong, you know, breadwinner or something, and then they think, my goodness, I can't take care of myself. I need this person. That is a form of forced labor. That right there is a great example of forced labor. Somebody who is being forced to work so they can take care of another individual. Forced labor. Okay? You don't do that under those conditions, even if it's your husband, especially if it's your husband. If somebody says, this is my husband, and I'm going to force her into this job, she doesn't want to do it, whatever. That's forced labor. And there's other forms of forced labor, you know, that I can go into some other time. But, you know, if you are somebody who cares about your spirituality, if you're somebody who cares about humanity, and if you see these people in the workplace, do something. If you could, even if it's an anonymously written note, and you stick it on their car window or something, because if they need to have confirmation because they're being gaslighted so bad that sometimes some people might even question their reality. It breaks them down mentally. The mental problems that a targeted individual has is, I would say, created mainly by the gaslighting and the psychological abuse that takes place with their handlers, the people who are bullying them, who get, you know, and the people who are watching them and helping the perpetrators bully them. You know, like when you're basically telling people, hey, this is what's going on at work, somebody's saying this, somebody's doing this, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just paranoid. Oh, you're so sick. They know good and well what's going on. Okay, so that leaves you feeling what? Confused. It leaves you feeling confused. Causes you psychological harm. I know when my sister Lisa was gaslighting me when I was in Lancaster, because I'm very intuitive, and I'm very, like, because I'm so, yeah, I am intuitive, but intense, I should say, you know, that it felt like shards of glass were going through my brain, because the pain of it was so bad. And think about, that was in 2014 when she was, you know, playing around with my life. Think how many other times throughout this time that I had to deal with that shard in my brain. Somebody abusing me to that point. To the point of where, you know, I knew that this could lead to my death and they didn't care. You know? Anyway, I don't want to go too much about that, but now you know what to look for. And I think it's up to an individual to do what's right. I don't think the majority of people will, but for people who do care, then do what you can. You know what I mean? Even if it's, I don't know, maybe set them up a GoFundMe. I don't know what you can do. Be creative, think about it, whatever. But these people need your help. They need your help. Some people, like I said, are worse off than me. Okay, so because some people would say, well, Marie, you're not starving. You got gas in your car, you have all this stuff. But look how the psychological effects happen. Look what I have to deal with. Look what kind of work environments I had to work in. Okay, for years and years and years and years. Okay, you know what the biggest health problem is in the United States? Heart attacks and strokes. And you know what I believe causes those heart attacks and strokes? Your fucking job. Truth. It's your goddamn job. And that's for everybody. Okay? Because you got to take care of your family. Okay? Right? Your family is a source of stress, but it's that damn job that you got to work 8 hours a day and put up with bullshit so that you can sit here and feed that family. You don't even have time to enjoy family anymore. You don't. It's because that job sucks the life out of you. Get there on time, make sure you do this, and you gotta deal with people's gossip, their stupid game playing, blah, 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 blah. Then one day you just croak out, and this is what it is. It's the workplace. I'm gonna blame the workplace for just about everything, and I know it is. Anytime you expect to spend more hours of a day, of each day of the week, than you spend with your own family, I'm gonna say that's pretty much the contributing factor for your health problems. Okay? It's important that people have good work environments. And it's whatever, we have all these shitty bosses that can't seem to get it together, who's so narcissistic, people who don't care about what their employees need in order to feel whole and content. Figure it out. Okay? Because we got a really big problem. Otherwise, it needs to be figured out. But mainly by the individuals who's going to this job. You got to think about it. Okay, I understand right now things are hard. Okay, we're hitting a recession and all this other stuff. People can't just go out and find their dream jobs. It's not realistic. But I think employers need to do the best thing they possibly can to find out what is causing all this dissatisfaction. And I know that some people attempt to do things, try to, make the employees feel like it's more of theirs. And that's really the key is. The key is that employees need to feel not separated from themselves. They need to feel whole at work. They do. They need to feel whole at work. That's a big part of it. And that's not just me saying this, okay? It's not just me saying this. It's true. Because there are a lot of people are extremely disappointed with how things turned out with them. I hear people complaining about their job all the time. Yet they went to school for it, they trained for it, this is all they wanted to be. Some of these people chose what they wanted to do. They put a lot of effort into it, but yet they're not completely satisfied. And why aren't they satisfied? Because that fucking job environment is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So, I don't know, there's a lot that needs to be done. And I think that the workplace is hell anyway, but when you add human trafficking on top of it, it's just unreal. So anyway, you guys know what the signs are, and what to look for when you see somebody basically being brought in to be exploited, and that's exactly what it is. If you stand around and you do nothing about it, that makes you just as evil as they are. I'm going to wrap this video up.